Now available on Tata Sky channel number 526.
Speed and creativity, two words that aren't often used in the same breath. But that's exactly where you need to hold your breath. Because on the Interior Show today, I'm going to introduce you to Sarah Shyam, a celebrated designer who's known for quick, smart, and efficient designing.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm an interior designer. I founded my company Isaji's Atelier in early 2014, and we do both commercial and residential projects. My journey started with an education in art history. I studied at Duke University in the US, and then I took a year out and I studied at Oxford in the UK. I also worked at a furniture store for about 5 years, which supplied custom-made furniture. And along that journey, I had a lot of clients that used to come up to me and ask me for my advice on how they should get their items custom-made. And I realized that I actually really enjoyed the process of having ownership on an entire project versus just items of furniture. My signature style is definitely contemporary, but I love using natural materials like stone, wood, and actually exposing the true qualities of those materials. I think my biggest source of inspiration is the vision of the final product. So as soon as I walk into a space, I can already start imagining, there's like this 3D view that gets generated in my head for how I can imagine the space looking. And more often than not, the space actually ends up looking exactly like that. So I have a very, very, very small team because I like to do everything myself. I, as a rule, don't take on a lot of projects because I would rather do very few projects and have those really speak volumes about me as a designer. I'd like to think that my design is thoughtful, primarily based in functionality to the client, but also something that is timeless and that's not ever going to go out of style.
Joining us now is Sarah and her client Shyam. Hi Sarah. Hi Shyam. Welcome to the Interior Show. Well, I would like to begin by asking you that how did you get in touch with Sarah?
Well, I just met her through a common friend, and I needed to get my apartment done, and I found out that she's the interior designer, so immediately took her up on her skills.
You didn't do too much research.
No, absolutely not. No, I just was opportunistic.
So, what was your brief to her? What exactly did you tell her?
Well, actually, there was nothing in this apartment when I came in. And I basically told her that, look, I've just come back from the US. I was living in the US for 10 years. I'll be living alone. And it was basically two things. One is that I want a feeling that when I come home after work, it's some place where I feel relaxed. I can sort of, just re-energize and just relax basically. And the second thing is I can also have people over, entertain some guests. So that was a combination of those two things.
He wanted something pretty simple and straightforward at first, but of course, as we went along in the process, both of us got more and more excited about the space and kept adding things here and there. And I think eventually we're both very happy with the way things turned out.
So if you really have to give this house a theme, it's a studio apartment. To me, it looks contemporary. Would it be right to call that the theme of the house?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's basically young, fresh,
bright.
Yeah.
At the same time, something that is lively.
Yeah, I mean, when I walked in, there was this pop of red. So was that something you particularly wanted?
No, that was all Sarah's idea. I really didn't have much of a sense of what would work.
So usually it's not always easy to work if your client is living in the house. Shyam was of course an exceptionally easy client. But one of the things that was difficult is this couch, because this couch is something that Shyam had already bought.
Yeah.
And this is before he knew what to do with the space. So I walked in, it's white walls everywhere, this plain flooring, and then this couch. And so we tried to weave everything around that to make sure that this couch doesn't look out of place and it doesn't look like we've gone in a different direction. So for example, the chair that you're sitting on, we got this custom made with our carpenter. And I took a clipping of this fabric and we used it as the piping, introduced a grey. We got this painting custom printed, it's a Roy Lichtenstein print. And so if you see there are these little circles of color which incorporate this same couch color in it. So we also selected the art very carefully so that everything comes together, in one cohesive...
Shyam, what's your take on that? Those are such intricate details. I mean, trying to match the piping with that. Did
Actually,
it make
I just
any
found out
sense
about
to
the
you?
color code, so that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just something. I mean, it's just something that I feel when you walk in,
Yeah.
and the first feeling that you have has to resonate well with you, and
Yeah.
has to have positive feel, and that was the most important thing.
Okay, so the space doesn't look cluttered at all because you've still managed to carve out a dining space.
Because the space has a very strange layout, we weren't really sure where to place things. So
Yeah.
me and him actually physically just lifted all the furniture a bunch of times.
You made
to
full
try.
use of him being at home.
Yeah, I mean, we both go to the gym and work out, so we may as well put it to some use. But also, one of the easiest interior design hacks or tricks is a rug. And this rug is very integral to the space. So we've taken the biggest possible rug from this we bought from Rug Republic. And so as you have a bigger rug, it delineates the space and makes your living area look bigger. So this automatically makes this look like the living space and that looks like the dining space without actually constructing anything.
Yeah.
So basically, Sarah essentially asked me to buy this rug, and it was slightly above my budget. I was wondering, what is the need to buy such an expensive rug?
Yeah.
It wasn't that expensive. It was 30,000 rupees.
Well, yeah. So it's just something that I didn't really think that I would need or imagine that was needed. But then when I got it, the value just came right out of it.
Another unique thing that I noticed was your choice of art, for example. It's not very typical. Did you have any role to play in that?
Yeah, I think that was more my decision in terms of the art pieces, in terms of, Sarah gave the idea of how we can install it in a budget, but the actual pictures were something that I took some time to find. I sent to Sarah, like, these are my pictures, frame it up. The one for my bedroom was more interesting. I actually didn't want any frames. But then Sarah basically saw that I clicked these pictures for my travels around the world, and she kind of pushed me to put them.
I love these pictures so much, and each tells a personal story, like where he went to university, his favorite place to travel, an art or like a piece of sculpture that he really
So
liked.
now that we're already talking about the bedroom, tell me about the color blue that you've gone ahead with.
So I wanted really masculine, manly colors to be used in the space. So this navy blue is finally the color that we both mutually decided that was looking the best.
Now moving further, I noticed the door. It actually takes you back in time.
I think these doors are beautiful. Lures are something that I think is classical and stands the test of time. And I actually think lures are being used in a lot of contemporary projects in many ways. I mean, if you Duco paint large lure doors, or if you use lures instead of curtains in certain areas, it can look actually pretty fantastic.
And how about the lights though? Was that again because you are very simple, because the choice of lights again is very simple?
I just wanted to have decent lighting because sometimes on the weekends I work on the dining table, so I needed some light.
So lights is something that we stayed fairly simple on. This light here that you see, we just got a local brass caster to make a plate, put rods in it at different heights, and we used chandelier bulbs, your flame bulbs, and we just screwed them on the bottom, and it was very easy and a very quick and simple solution, and it looks like a chandelier or like a lighting fixture in a way, but it was for under 10,000 rupees, so it was
That's it?
That's it.
Shyam, did you expect though that this will be done like in just about a month's time?
No, I mean, it was fairly quick, so I was pleasantly surprised with that. And even, when I have friends coming over and, they came 1 month and there was nothing, and the next month they're like, wow, this is like a fully fledged...
That was fast.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, thank you so much, Shyam, for joining us. And I have to say that it's a lovely, chic studio apartment in Mumbai that Sarah has managed to do for you. And thank you so much, Sarah, for getting me here. And you're going to take me to another house, which I guess is going to be equally surprising.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's do it. Well, she's brought me to this really spacious duplex in Bandra that has a very contemporary look. So Sarah, tell me, how did this project happen to you?
We had clients that approached me because they had to move out of the house pretty much immediately. There was something that came up on their end. And so they moved out of this house and they had left this house empty for about a year, and they hadn't moved any of their stuff out. And so this house was basically like this huge dumping yard with stuff in every single corner. They needed someone to pretty much transform the entire space to make it look different.
So how did you turn it around?
I think a lot of it had to start with just boxing up a lot of the stuff and just moving it all out of the space, and also just assessing how to make the two spaces look alike. So the upstairs space already has a very contemporary feel to it, and the downstairs space had a very traditional look to it. So the two spaces looked completely incongruent. It looked like one house and a separate house completely. So we had to try and make both houses meet halfway in between. So we kept a lot of the furniture as well, and we repolished, we reupholstered it. We opened up this entire space to make it a living room area. This space was very unique because it's like a long passageway. So one of the things that we used as a trick to make the space look bigger is that we put a mirror at the end of it. So it doubles the appearance of the space. And the other thing that we did, which was very, very simple, is that we added laminated wooden flooring to the space. So we got this wood flooring from a store in Raghuvanshi Mills in Mumbai called Square Foot, and it was for about 110 rupees per square foot. And I loved this wood flooring because it has textures of a few different kinds of wood. So it matches with the door frames, with the furniture, with the bar stools, and it ties everything together. At the same time, all of this flooring cost about 25,000 rupees to put all of it together in this space, and it covers the very ugly tiles that are underneath pretty seamlessly, and this floor didn't have to be resurfaced, nothing. This was all completed in under a day.
Now, tell me about the choice of art for this house.
So because this is a casual living room area, it has to be something that was kind of peaceful, and that brought in the floral motifs that was on the already existing curtains that we didn't want to replace. So we brought in a vintage botanical print, and we got that custom printed again on canvas. Got it framed in a distressed white frame that gives it a more vintage vibe and feel. And then it kind of puts together the whole space and makes it look more complete.
Yeah. So talking about lights, I noticed that you have actually experimented to quite an extent, especially in this casual living space.
I got these from Lohar Chal. These filament bulbs are very interesting because you can see the entire tungsten filament illuminated in it, and it adds a nice interest factor. And things like this don't have to cost you a lot of money. It's just 5,000 rupees for a total of 2 lights, and yet it gives the space a lot of energy. So there is a chandelier in the master bathroom only because there's this beautiful cove ceiling that's created there, and that middle area is literally begging for a nice light to be hanging from it. I walked all through Lohar Chal, which is a lighting market in near Crawford Market in Bombay, and I found this chandelier for 8,000 rupees, even though it is a crystal chandelier and it looks very rich and elegant. It's actually a pretty easy fix to put something like that.
And moving further to the kitchen, you turned it into something very contemporary.
So what happens is that when with a lot of our modern family systems, you don't necessarily have to sit at a dining table. Sometimes you're in a hurry, you need to rush to work. You just want to eat something really quick, like down your cereal, or you're back after a late night and you just want to grab a midnight snack. You don't want to have to get the food and sit on a dining table, and there is a formal dining table in the upstairs space anyway, which is a formal long 8-seater. So I just put these studs and I added a glass countertop. So it creates 2 counter surfaces, and then I put bar stools on either side that I got from Urban Ladder. I think it was 5,000 rupees for each bar stool. So I just picked up 2 bar stools and put them on the other side. So it becomes a very quick and casual way to eat your food.
Sarah, we've just come from a house that was 1/4 the size of this one. Now, I want to know how different was your approach in both the cases?
So my approach was actually exactly the same, and it tends to be for most projects. But this one was just very unique because the upstairs had one look, the downstairs had a completely different look. So the challenge was to try and make them both meet halfway. So I had a lot more difficulty in putting together this space and trying to think of creative ways to make the spaces still look good.
Well, on that note, I'm actually quite curious to see how you've turned this challenge around in your favor. So let's go ahead and have a look.
Let's do that.
So Sarah, I noticed that this floor is completely different from the floor below, and I also see how you've struck a balance between something very contemporary, which was downstairs, and this to me actually feels like semi-European.
It is. It definitely has a European summer villa kind of feel to it, and I think the sloped roof gives you the feel that you're in a penthouse. And these little lights make you feel like they're twinkling stars in the night sky. That was the idea.
Yes, in fact, the ceiling is quite fascinating. What are those lights inside?
So they're really, really tiny little lights that you've just placed in a grid along the ceiling so that it looks like it gives a more impactful effect than just having 1 or 2 big ones.
Okay. And also you've used lighting under the beams. So what was the purpose of just to accentuate the ceiling?
Whenever there's something linear running across a space, it's always a good idea to light it because it makes the space look longer.
And I think what lends this space a European look that we were talking about are the windows and the window panes.
These windows were painted over in this horrible white paint that was cracking, and then every time you have to repaint over it because you feel like, this paint is cracking and it looks awful. So we just scraped it down and we found this really beautiful wood color underneath. And coincidentally, it matches with the color of the wood flooring. So we were very happy when we saw, and it's French window style and it's got this lovely arch on top. So there's no reason why you should ever paint over frames like this.
Yeah. And also, I think what complements the window panes are the choice of blinds that you've used, very floral, pastels.
So this is from Chunilal Mulchand in Colaba, which is a very, very old upholstery store, and I buy from them all the time. They're one of my favorite people to buy from. In fact, all of the upholstery in this place is from Chunilal Mulchand, including the seats of the chair, everything. They do lovely Indian-made textiles.
And how about the flooring? It's darker in color, right?
So this is a mahogany finish, and this flooring is also from the same place in Raghuvanshi Mills square foot, and it's also priced at a very similar price point. It'll be in the range of about 110 to 120 rupees a square foot. And here, to demarcate the living space, there's been a raised platform, and there's no screen or any such thing. So I like having both of them merge into each other, and usually when you entertain, then this becomes a nice surface to lay out your buffet on, and you can put your entire spread and then everyone can sit where they please.
Sarah, another observation, I noticed in the previous house you chose very simple and sleek lights, right? Maybe because of the fact that it was a bachelor pad, but here you've actually gone ahead with something very exotic, very exquisite over the dining table.
So this chandelier actually plays off the floral elements that you see on the upholstery that's been used to cover all of the blinds. And also visually, when you drop something lower, automatically your eye creates a space around it, which is why we usually hang something low on top of a dining table. It also makes it really cozy, makes it look nice.
So Sarah, apart from this space, is there any other space you'd like to show me?
We can walk you through towards the bedroom. Let's take a look. This is a bit more of a manly space because as the master bedroom, the man of the house has to live here. So the space has definitely got a darker vibe to it. Okay.
So you'd actually broken down this wall partially to create this view.
Yes, absolutely. So this wall has a hole that's been specifically cut out in it so that you can roll the blind up and see all the way through, and it also creates the feeling of more space.
But that was actually done pretty strategically, right? Because it's a good view right in front.
Absolutely, and there's windows all around, and there's a view from here.
It made sense to do that.
So you can see everything from everywhere.
Also, another thing, now your choice of lights here is again very simple, very straight line. Again, to keep up with the whole theme of the room?
We brought some of the lights from outside in the hall here. So you have the tiny little lights that spot the ceiling here. And apart from that, there's the task light that comes on top of the desk so that it focuses light directly on what you're doing.
Well, Sarah, how you've actually used lighting in your ceiling to accentuate it throughout the house is something very unique. We've not seen that before. And I think it's a good thing because we're going to hold on to that thought and we're going to discuss that in detail after a short break.
Absolutely.
And now we're going to talk about the roof over your head. Well, quite literally, because our designer guest Sarah is going to tell you how you can experiment with your ceilings. Well, Sarah, when we talk about ceiling, we usually think of just a plain white roof above your head. But it turns out that ceilings do have some kind of design potential.
Absolutely. So I think for most people, especially homeowners that are trying to do their houses by themselves, it doesn't necessarily apply to designers, but it's just the eye level and below.
So do you think treating the ceilings a certain way can actually create an illusion of a space being bigger than what it really is?
So it absolutely can make the space look bigger. More importantly, if you have a ceiling that's not very high, there are a few tips and tricks that you can use to elongate the ceiling at least.
Okay. So what are some of the materials that one can use?
There are a lot of really innovative materials that you can use on the ceiling. A lot of people actually just put wood flooring straight up on their ceiling, which looks very interesting, and it doesn't really require a lot of carpentry work to get it done. and it's pretty cost effective as well. You just have to have planned your lighting layout in advance because those certain cutouts need to be made.
Well, thank you for all that information, Sarah. But ceilings or any other part of your house, you know that you can always write into us. And this is that part of the show where you send in your questions and our designers answer. So are you ready for the questions?
Bring it on.
So our first question is from Alicia. She writes to us asking, the walls of my studio apartment are burnt bricks. What kind of art can I put up on my walls without it looking tacky?
So what I would definitely recommend is the most classic combination with brick is black and white photography.
Okay.
That usually is the combination that most people go for. But if she wants to go for artwork, then she would probably be safe going with colors that are more monochromatic.
Okay.
Because if she tries to go for something that's red or bright, it may clash with the color of the brick.
Yeah.
And it's nice to let the color of the brick shine
Stand
by
out.
itself.
Yeah.
It also depends on what the other items are in her house, and
Yeah.
I would recommend that if there is a bright color in something else, then she could use an element of that in the artwork that she picks.
Yeah. Well, with that, let's move on to the next question. Sunaina from Mumbai tweets, I have an irregular shaped living room. What kind of a rug should I buy?
So that's a very interesting question. If her room is irregular, as in there's, say, an angular wall that comes through it, then if you try and put a rectangular rug in it, it will probably draw your eye to the wrong place, or it will look weird. So there are a lot of round rugs that are available. Look for something that's either elliptical in shape or round in shape, because that has no lines on it. So even if it's an irregular shaped space, she will escape.
With that, let's move on to the next question. Karan from Delhi says, we are renovating our home to make it look contemporary with a lot of colors. In what way can I experiment with the flooring? I want to add some color on the floor.
But there are a lot of flooring options that are available. Of course, you have your usual wood, you have stone, you have tile. The flooring option that I've been dying and waiting to use in one of my sites is tiles. I think tiles have been used very few and far between in houses, and they're heritage tiles that are available from a company in Fort called Bharat Tiles.
Okay.
And they do some fantastic heritage tiles. Another good option he can do is cement flooring. If he goes for something called IPS, that's called Indian Polished Stone. So it's a brick, it's a cement koba that's laid on the floor by your contractor, and a lot of them will know how to do this. It's a technique that's used in Kerala a lot. If you go to houses in Kerala, they use something called tin oxide to make the floors this beautiful yellow.
Yeah.
And the entire floor is this mustard, burnt yellow.
Okay.
And it's a great way of introducing a color without the color being overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it goes great with wood furniture and wood accents.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. The IPS flooring is something which is new, so I'm sure that's going to help him. With that, we come to our last query. Mrs. Arpita from Mumbai writes to us saying, my staircase has become rusty and looks very ugly with paint chipping off. How can I make my staircase quirky, retaining its functionality?
I would recommend that she even makes it look more rusty. There's sprays that are available that you can actually make at home. It's pretty similar to the solution you use to pickle cucumbers with. It's vinegar and acid, and you can spray that onto the staircase, and the rust really starts coming out, and it's a really beautiful color. And the only area where the rust would bother you is the handrail. So she could make a wood covering for her handrail area, do a really lovely finish on the wood. She can match it to something that's already existing in her house. And have a nice smooth handrail and then a really beautiful rusted staircase underneath. And that could actually look very quirky, very interesting.
Yeah, that could. Well, thank you for all that, Sarah. And on that note, thank you for spending your day with us and enlightening us with all those tricks on how to go ahead with efficient designing techniques. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was quite a power-packed half hour, but unfortunately we're running out of time now. I'll be back next week, same time, but with a new place. Until then, keep watching Magicbricks Now.
You can watch live TV on our website mpnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Magicbricks Now. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at Magicbricks Now. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/Magicbricks Now.